Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. It is episode 110. Where has the time gone? I'm so honored and thrilled to welcome this next guest. She is an award-winning singer-songwriter. She's also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Songwriting, and she is also a Spotify verified artist. Please help me welcome Kate Schutt.
Hey, Jake, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Kate. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, so let's get started with your origin story. So when did you get interested in music, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in the recording industry?
Well, the story is that basically I had two older brothers. They didn't play any instruments. I came along. I'm the youngest. And I came along and my parents were like, come hell or high water, one of our children is going to learn an instrument. So they made me take piano lessons when I turned 10. And, very soon after that, about a year after playing piano, I saw some boys in my class playing guitar, and I was like, well, I can do that. So I begged for a guitar, and, they got me like a nylon string guitar. They rented it from school, and I started taking lessons, and then, got more and more serious about the guitar and kind of played both instruments for a long time and still do play the piano, but just really got turned on to the guitar. And, kind of the rest is history. My mom's side of the family is not musical in that I know of. There may have been ancestors who were, but my dad's side of the family is quite musical. My dad's a fantastic chromatic harmonica player. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Awesome. So who are your heroes in the music industry, and how do they influence your sound?
Well, I have a bunch of heroes that I don't think influenced my sound at all. And then I have a bunch of heroes that I think do influence my sound. I'd say one of the biggest influences is Tina Turner. I was 10 years old when the Private Dancer record came out. That I was obsessed with that record. I had it on cassette tape and on my Smurf Walkman, and I just wore it out. I've seen Tina in concert every time she's been on tour, multiple times. I don't know if she influences my sound, but she definitely influences my being involved in music. Another person who is very influential, though I don't think they appear really in my sound, is Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. My parents had the Ella Fitzgerald Sings the Cole Porter Songbook double album and they played it all the time on their record player. And so I knew all those songs, all those amazing songs by heart, and that Ella's voice, of course, by heart. And then later came to those duet records, which are amazing. But the Cole Porter aspect, I think it does influence my sound. I'm always trying to write a song that sounds like a lost jazz standard. That's what I'm trying to do. That's my mission. Now, sometimes I write songs that are really pop oriented because, I grew up playing in literal garage bands, playing the music of Janis Joplin and the Rolling Stones and Jimi Hendrix and the Grateful Dead. So you can't really extract that from me. But the thing I'm always trying to do is to write a song that sounds like sort of a lost jazz standard. And what would Cole Porter be writing if he were alive today? That's what I'm going for. Or what would Ella Fitzgerald be singing if she was singing the songs of songwriters today? So Cole Porter's music is, and basically the songwriters of the Great American Songbook are super influential on me. But other ones that, really influenced my sound would be Ben Webster, the jazz saxophonist, and Aretha Franklin, I can't not mention Aretha. I don't think it comes out in my sound, but it's super influential. And, obviously other singer-songwriters too. I would have to say like Ricky Lee Jones. She's a big influence. And you can probably hear her in my sound. So that's a handful. I mean, there's plenty more.
I totally agree, especially when you brought up Ella Fitzgerald, Cole Porter, and Louis Armstrong. Mm-hmm. It saddens me that my generation, the generations behind me, may not even know about the impact that Cole Porter or Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald had on the music industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody finds their way, at some point to the music music is so democratic now. When I was a kid, I'm like the last, I'm the generation basically before the internet. Like I grew up without the internet. So if you wanted to know like who were the influences of the people you were listening to, you had to read liner notes and you had to like dig and dig and dig. And I think nowadays, my nieces and nephews who are 15, 16, 17, like they listen to more Stan Getz and, arguably right now they're listening to more classic jazz than I am because they have Spotify playlists that just, feed them. Like as soon as they listen to one of those tracks, like the algorithm then feeds more of it and then they like it. And so then it's like, I think there are people that know about it. It's just people are knowing about it in a different way, maybe.
Absolutely. So what have been some of the challenges that you faced breaking into the music industry and how did you overcome those obstacles?
Well, I would, first of all, take issue with your question. I don't think I really have broken into the music industry. I actually don't even know. I'm really like respectfully kind of, I don't even know what the words music industry means. Like, because I don't think I'm a part of it. And also, like, I don't know if I want to be a part of it. Like, I don't want to be a part of an industry that makes me feel like a cog. But I'll put that all aside and I'll say that, what are the biggest obstacles for me making music and people knowing about it on a larger scale? I mean, basically, what's the biggest obstacle is that I was born female. I mean, let's call a spade. Like, the boys club in music is real. The patriarchy is real. It's always been really challenging for women in music. And, it's even more challenging for women who happen to be persons of color, so I think that's the number one biggest challenge. And especially I play pop jazz, or jazz pop. I mean, I'm skirting around the edges and dipping into the world of jazz, and that is especially a patriarchy. So, that's probably the biggest challenge I've faced. If you wanted to name one thing, I mean, there's always other things, but they're mostly self-inflicted. Challenges with mindset, challenges with, falling down a deep, dark hole of comparing myself to others. Just little things that get in my way for, personally and with my own mindset towards just being totally free, creating my music and sharing it.
I understand. I totally understand. I want to talk to you about Bright Nowhere. That album of yours is probably one of the most powerful. I was talking to you guys. I was talking to Kate before we got on about how moving that her album was, and you all need to download it and all need to listen to it. It's powerful songwriting at its best, incredible arrangements. This was probably one of my favorite albums of the year.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really came out of a really long time that I spent taking care of my mom. I basically put my music career down and put my guitar down. I didn't write songs, and I moved home to be my mom's primary caregiver when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And, I had no clue how long that experience, how long she would live for. She was diagnosed with a very rare and aggressive form of cancer. And the doctors really gave her about 2 years. And, but, because I was there, because I could really maximize everything in her life, and just be on top of all of her care, we were lucky and we got 4.5 years. So, but during that 4.5 years, like, that's what I was doing. I was taking notes about songs I wanted to write if I ever happened to find my way back into music. But there's no guarantee, because it was all encompassing. And I really had, really separated myself from the process of music, the making of music during that time. So that's where all the songs came from.
I would love to learn the stories behind each of those, about some of the songs I picked out of all this. I listened to all the album, but there were several tracks that stood out to me the most. I'd love to learn the story behind them.
Sure. Like what?
All right, let's start with Mothers.
Oh, Mothers. Wow. Man, Mothers is such an amazing experience. That's a song I wrote after she died. And there were a handful of songs that I wrote after she died. I got the chance while she was alive to write some music in little fits and starts. But this one I didn't write until probably 2 or 3 years after she died. And Mothers is, like, there comes this time when you, as an adult, start to understand that, like, wait a second, your mom actually is her own person. Like, she has thoughts and dreams and wishes and hopes of her own that have nothing to do with you as the child, as the children, and as the family member and as the family unit. Like, and I think, this strikes people at different points in their life, but it really struck me after she died and I was going through all of her things, her desk room and all of her stuff. And I realized, wait a second, this is a person who had like a whole other life that was beyond the family. And like, I don't know much about that life. Unfortunately, I didn't have this realization until after she died. And so I didn't get to ask her all that stuff. And so I wanted to write a song that was like, that captured that realization that, like, mothers are these things that are like these people that we actually don't really know. Like, we know them so intimately, like you only get one mom. You're lucky if you get a fantastic one, but like, we know them so intimately, and yet we don't know them at all.
I gotta say, I have one fantastic mom, Gloria Ann Matzerfeld. I want to give her a shout out during this interview. She's an amazing mom. So, one of the songs that really turned me onto your album was "Fight the Good Fight." It's such a powerful anthem.
Yeah, that's one of the songs I wrote when my mom was still alive, and she got to hear that song, and that came out of, being the person that was literally making all the health care decisions for her, and, saying yes to frontline chemo and taking her to all her chemo infusions, and to saying yes to the radiation and taking her to all that and walking her through all of that, and just being like, wow, everyone knows, or if you don't know, now you know, that, like, basically when you have a really aggressive form of cancer and you choose Western medicine, they basically have to almost kill you to kill the cancer and then bring you back to life. And that's what she was going through. And it was so brutal. I mean, it's so medieval, really, what they do. And I hope that, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, like, we'll just be taking a pill when we get cancer. Like, oh, we just take this pill and that's it. But now it's still quite medieval. And I needed her to know that, she didn't have to she was the rock of our family. She was the center. And for once, she didn't have to be that. She didn't have to fight the good fight. She didn't have to put on a brave face. She could let us do that. and she could let me do that. And so that was where that song came from, is just telling her, because, I assume it's true for you, is that if you have a really strong mother figure or strong father, whoever is at the center of your family unit, they tend to be that person no matter what's going on. And in a situation like that, like, she needed all of her energy to be focused on herself and surviving, not on putting on a good face and continuing to be the center of the family. Like, I could take that over for now.
And I want to talk about Nothing I Won't Bear. That song, I think, after that explanation to Fight the Good Fight, that song adds Nothing I Won't Bear as another powerful punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a very specific song I needed to write for her. And that was one of the first songs I wrote, because she, my mom, she felt very guilty and very ashamed and worried by the fact that I had essentially overnight, once she got diagnosed, basically given up everything to take care of her. And, that's just, that can't feel good. That didn't feel good. And, there's a lot of weird things, weird emotions that people feel when they get sick, and they're such, in their mind, a burden on whoever's taking care of them. And it was like, I never could, no matter how many times I told her, like, this is what I wanted to be doing, it was my choice. I chose to do this. Every day I'm here, I'm doing this. This is what I want to be doing. It was like, it never sunk in. I would try to creatively think of ways to tell this to her and get it in. And it just didn't happen. And then eventually she went into remission, and I got this little chance to go away and start writing some songs. And I knew I was going to write that song. I needed to write a song that would tell her that. And it was like a miracle. Like, I came home, I played that song for her. Of course, she burst out crying, and we never had to have that conversation ever again. Like, the song did it. The lyrics, the music, I guess maybe possibly the fact that I would take my precious time to write that and to communicate it, whatever. For whatever reason, songs are magical. It changed that whole dynamic.
I'm so glad that your mom heard that song.
Yeah, I'm so glad too. It was really hard to be, to be present when I always felt like she was like, she had a suffering beyond the suffering, like this, she was already suffering physically from the effects of a major debulking surgery, frontline chemo, radiation, all that. Like, but to have the psychological suffering of like, oh, I'm a burden. Oh, I feel, ashamed of getting sick, of being this sick. Like, yeah, it's horrible. I don't want anybody to suffer ever in the world, anywhere, no matter who they are. But, certainly not my mom. And certainly she was such a great person. She was just a really good soul and such a giving person. Like, she didn't need to feel that way.
The last song I want to talk to you about is Roll the Stone Back.
Mm-hmm.
It was another good song. It was another great song, mm-hmm. and also a little uplifting as well. A little uplifting.
Yeah. That was a song I wrote also after my mom died. And, I was working once she died, and, I got my dad back sort of functioning, and I then could really turn my attention to writing, really, dedicate all my energies to writing these songs. I would travel to places and be songwriting, and I always have a picture of my mom that I would take with me just to, be there and remind me like who it was I was writing these songs for, and just presence her. And so that's where that song came from, because I wanted to write a song that was like, I have this particular picture of her, and when I looked at that picture, all the times I looked at it and all the places I carried it with me, it was like she was alive. It was as if she wasn't gone. And that's where Roll the Stone Back came from. This idea that like the times I spend with you, remembering our time together, the times I see you in pictures, the times I'm just with you in spirit, like you are alive. You sort of are resurrected. I mean, I'm no, I'm a Zen Buddhist, so I don't really believe in resurrection in the Christian sense, but that of course is what the title references, is like rolling the stone back and Jesus being resurrected, essentially. But yeah, that this person is alive, like they're here in the here and now. If I put my soul and my heart with them.
Definitely. No matter there, I lost a lot of loved ones. I've lost loved ones, and I definitely sense their spirit. And I definitely get chills when I feel them with me. Yeah, and loss is. First of all, I'm sorry, and for your losses, and secondly, loss is something that our culture does so poorly. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I wrote all these songs and why I presented them all together is because I've envisioned them as like a set of keys to unlock conversations or feelings around grief and loss that maybe you have trouble accessing, or maybe maybe you don't know what to say to a friend who's going through something really tough, that maybe somebody they've lost that's close to them, and you don't exactly know what to say because we're not really taught how to be there for other people. But you could send them this album, or you could send them that song. And so, yeah, that's, I'm with you in your losses, and, the one thing we can count on is life. In life is a lot of loss, including the loss of our own life, I agree with you on that. And also I gotta say you delivered a beautiful TED Talk.
Yeah.
It was very beautiful, guys. It was to hear about this grief casserole. This is just beautiful. It's on the TED Talk. This is when you visited TED, Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, and really that came out, that sort of fell in my lap. I had I don't even know what song, but I had played some song and put it on the internet and on YouTube, and somebody in that organization saw it and reached out to me and said, would you be willing to come and do a TED Talk? And, TED Talk's a huge responsibility. It's a TEDx talk. It was a huge responsibility, but I really wanted to do a little teaching about how do you support a friend who's going through loss and grief, because I know how people didn't show up for me. And it really changed me, and it really made me made me a better friend, because now I know what to do. And so I wanted to just pass on 3 really simple things that everyone can do around loss and grief that'll just transform not only your own relationship to loss, but transform your relationships.
Awesome. I want to move on to the ultimate guide of songwriting. So how long were you working on this book?
Well, I've been working on this book on and off for probably 5 years. It's not out yet, actually, but you can sign up on my website. You can go to kateschutt.com and sign up for an email list that's specific to the book that will let you know when it's coming out. But yeah, it really is kind of a funny story. It came out of, I'm obviously a songwriter, I've written many songs, but I always had a panic attack in front of the blank page. No matter how many songs I've written, no matter, whether they won the John Lennon Songwriting Award, and whether they, recognized by ASCAP, these kinds of things, it didn't matter. I still, every time I sat down at the blank page, I always was do I know how to write a song? Like, I don't think I know how to write a song. And so I got so tired of that, that I was like, okay, I'm going to write a checklist for myself of like, this is how you write a song, Kate. And it was really for myself. And it was just really step by step, kind of taking its cue from this great book by the Dr. Atal Gawande, who wrote a book called like the Checklist Manifesto. Anyway, so I wrote myself a checklist, and then for fun, I sent it to a couple of really close friends who are songwriters and musicians, and like, hey, this might help. Like, and they wrote back and said that it had really helped them. And so I was like, you know, I have struggled so much with songwriting in my life. Everything from like confidence in it, to, you know, just literally fitting it into the day, making space for it in my life, to so many things that I'd struggled with. And I was like, if I can save one person the amount of freaking heartache and pain that I've been through in songwriting, then this will have been worth it. So then, you know, then I basically just set out on my own to kind of flesh out the list. Like, okay, I know my list because it was shorthand for me, but like, what is a song? What are the parts of a song? So it's really intended for, I mean, both amateurs and pros. I mean, I think pros will get a lot out of it. The professional songwriters will, because I combine my life coaching and my interest in mindset and creating and just my life coaching side of my life with songwriting. So there's a lot of, it's really like a book about life coaching and songwriting at the same time. But if you're an amateur songwriter, you've always wanted to write a song, it's for you. It's like literally step by step, including all the things that your brain and your self-hating voices will try to shoot you down with.
I might have to send that songbook to my brother, because he's written so many songs, even though he's published some of them, but he definitely, I think he would definitely be beneficial with this book. So I cannot wait when this book is released.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, I'm at this point, it's had a little bit of a long journey. I mean, I was writing it on my own. Nobody knew I was doing it. So and then I finally hired an editor because it was so step by step. I really needed help organizing it. And then I worked with her forever. We did 3 drafts of it. And then just as I was about to like go down the self-publishing road, because I wasn't doing it to like become a writer. I was doing it for myself really, and to help people. COVID hit, and a couple of mentors, at least one mentor of mine, was like, I think you should write a book proposal and like try to get this published. Like, why not? No, you're not doing anything else for the next year or more. And so I was like, oh man, all right. So then I wrote a book proposal, which is not easy. But I learned how to write a really amazing book proposal and did it, and like threw it up against the wall to see if anything would stick. And lo and behold, it did. And I got a really fantastic literary agent, and you know, long story short, she shopped it to many, many, many publishers, and they all loved it, but for one reason or another, it just didn't fit their list. And so I'm sort of back where I started. So stay tuned.
I'll make sure to stay tuned. So, as you wind down this interview, if you had the opportunity to meet with other songwriters who are struggling right now with their songwriting journey, what advice will you share with them?
Oh, man. Well, other than, don't be born female or a person of color, which they can't change, I think my advice would be stop hating on yourself. Stop with the comparisons. You know, like all of us have inside of us this critical voice. And I very, very blankly, very blatantly call it a self-hating voice. And that voice is not you. It's not you. It's Who knows why humans have them, why we have this negative voice in our head, but we do. And over the years in my training and everything, Zen Buddhism and life coaching and just living my life as a seeker, I have learned to recognize that voice is not me. So when it's saying something about how much I'm songwriting or how little I'm songwriting, how good this song is or how bad it is, especially saying how bad it is, that I can recognize that that's actually not me, and separate the me who just loves to write songs and loves to share music with the world and is utterly free in her desire to share and be understood and, create a moment with someone. So my advice is, try to separate yourself from that, learn how to separate yourself from that voice and not be so affected by it, because it isn't the truth. It isn't you. And, that's the voice that makes you compare yourself to others and compare your journey to other people's journey. And, basically gets in your way around pretty much everything. So, do the work to figure out how to first become aware that you have that voice, and secondly, separate yourself from it. And there's many ways to do that. Meditation and mindfulness is one, but there's lots of other ways. And the other, that's like one big one. And then the second thing I would say is, there's three actually. So the second thing is, you have to do this for the love of it. Like, if you're doing it because you want to be rich and famous, or because you want to be a celebrity, or because you want to insert X, thing out there in the world, money, fame, notoriety, that's not, to me, that's a dangerous road to be on. Like, you have to do it because you love it. You have to do it when no one's watching and when no one loves you, no one knows what you're doing. When the world doesn't even know you exist. If you're doing it then because you love it and because you want to, then you'll be okay. Because that other stuff comes and goes. And in a lot of cases, the highway of art is littered with places where amazing people, never got recognized and or got recognized 100, 150 years after their death. Vincent van Gogh being like a prime example. But, Vincent van Gogh loved painting more than anything else and was entirely supported by his brother and his brother's wife. And we have Vincent van Gogh. The only reason we know about Vincent van Gogh is because of his brother's wife, really. And so, that's okay. If you read the letters of Vincent van Gogh between him and his brother, you realize he wasn't doing it was all about just the painting, the experience of painting, the moment of painting, the looking, the seeing, the feeling. And so if you do that yourself with your music or whatever part, anything, don't care if it's music, you might, do it with whatever you're passionate about. Do it with your family, do it with your friendships, you'll be okay. You'll get through. And I don't mean you'll be okay like you'll make it. I don't mean that at all. I mean, you'll live a happy life, being happiness, being satisfied, being whole. So that's number 2. And number 3 is learn how to build a community. Learn how to build a community that includes all voices, all shapes, all sizes, all colors, all genders, all non-genders, all, learn how to build up other people around you, because nobody does it on their own. And as though our culture wants to make it seem like people do, nobody does. And also there are a lot of voices out there that are less privileged than yours, and they need your platform and your help. And a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, ultimately, it's more fun when you're doing it with other people.
I totally agree on all 3 pieces of those advices. So, Kate, most importantly, where can my audience support your music and connect with you on social media?
Sure. Kate Schutt, at Kate Schutt on all the socials. So that's KATES, as in Sam, CHUTT. So at Kate Schutt on Instagram, Facebook Music, YouTube. I'm a little bit on the Twitter, but I'm not really. So Instagram's probably the best place, and Facebook. And then at my website, kateschutt.com. And all those places. I'm very easy to find.
Awesome, Kate. So, guys, if you missed several episodes of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, you can download those episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Spreaker. Just type in Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And also, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Please subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Kate, 2021 marks my 10th anniversary at jakes-take.com.
Congratulations. That is amazing. Wow.
Thank you so much. I love doing this. It's been doing this for a decade. And if you want to see all my interviews, articles, and reviews, including your incredible CV, head to jakes-take.com. And guys, I would love your help to consider heading to PayPal to keep jakes-take.com and my platform up and running. I am the only person that's running the show. So all the interviews that you watched, I edited, I wrote everything. So please consider heading to PayPal. And also, please, if you can't do that, please like and subscribe to my channels. It would mean everything to me. Kate, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. I really appreciate you taking your time.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for what you do and in the way in which you lift up, people whose voices may or may not be at the center of all of this. So, congratulations on 10 years. That is an absolutely huge deal.
Thank you very much, Kate. And guys, thank you so much for listening and for watching our conversation. Until next time, have a great one.